Let's talk crochet. Hi folks, I'm Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is my channel Slow Crochet. This is episode 023, and today I am talking about current crochet works in progress and any finished objects I have. Before I get any farther, I want to say a big hi and thank you to all of my subscribers. It is such a joy to be part of this YouTube world. So thank you for coming along as I continue to see what happens when I launch these videos out into the wide world and I get to meet wonderful people like y'all. Thank you for the comments and the likes and any shares and any of that kind of stuff. It really does encourage me and it is really fun getting to know a lot of y'all. If you are seeing this video on the day it is released, then it is National Granny Square Day. So ahead of that, I wanted to make sure I made something Granny Square adjacent. I didn't just make one Granny Square, I made 3. And this is my first finished, well, the crochet part is finished object. And it is a little Granny Square bag. Itty bitty. You can make this as big as you want. It's a very straightforward idea. But you make 3 different granny squares. Well, you make 3 of the same granny square and you just sew them together to form your little bag. And then for this one, I just continued the pattern just straight on up and made a strap for it. Now this particular granny square is called X Marks the Spot, and I will have a link to that granny square and the tutorial for that, the pattern for that in the description box below. So for this, I used a J-hook, I used a mystery worsted weight yarn, and just did the 3 squares. My thought for this is a lot of times when I'm going out, I don't want to carry a big old bag. Sometimes I just want my sunglasses and my phone and maybe some lip balm and maybe a handkerchief or something, but I just want something little to go with pretty much everything too. So this I thought would be just perfect for that. Now the crochet part is finished, but I do want to make a lining for it. And I have a couple of options here. So please let me know what you think would make a better lining. The first print I have is this kind of fun teacup and floral print. It's really amusing to me. It's super sweet because you have all these different forms of like little antique teacups. So that's option 1 for the bag lining. Option 2 is just a more straightforward floral, and it's just a little viney floral print with kind of a cranberry red dot in there and like a black and gray. So either one of these I think would work on the interior. I'm not sure that I'm going to haul my sewing machine out of retirement to work on this. I could easily just whip it up by hand and then either do like a vintage button or do even a zipper. Anyway, let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts? The teacups or just the little floral print? What would work better as a bag lining for my granny square purse, bag, pouch, whatever you want to call it. Finished object. I'm calling it a finished object. So I started that this week and finished it, so that's good. I wanted to do a quick update as well on my Christmas mouse because I realized last week I neglected to show my Christmas mouse holding its candy cane. So here we have happy little mouse with a cookie is now a mouse with a candy cane, and I might have a cute photo or 2 with him out in the peppermint patch. If so, I will be dropping that in right here. So his little candy cane I made just using like a piece of chain stitching, and I wrapped that around a white pipe cleaner. And then because his tail is so short, I put a little bow on it to show that he's still gonna be okay despite his lack of tail length. So now that he has his candy cane, he is properly done. Again, I finished him last week. I just forgot to show you guys, and I wanted to make sure to show him off now. Another finished object that I had been working on last week was my first foray into Tunisian crochet, and I was using a pattern called the Elm Slouch from Toni Lipsey's Tunisian Crochet Handbook. I did not make this hat into a slouch. I made it into a regular size hat, and I did indeed finish it. So here it is. I just omitted a few rows of each color to make it more of a standard hat size. So you can see not too slouchy. The brim is pretty wide, I think. relative to the rest of it. So as a slouchy, I'm sure it would have been different proportions, but I don't really wear slouchy hats that much. So I wanted to aim for something that I thought I would actually wear. So how do I feel about this project? Well, I'm glad it's finished. It was an interesting process, and maybe it wasn't the best pick for my first Tunisian crochet project. It was worked flat, and that required seaming, and I will show you my seaming job. I want to own up to this mess of stitching. I had a bunch of ends to weave in, and I just made a mess of it. So now I have to decide, do I want to rip this out and try to make a better seam? If I understand correctly, now I don't have the book anymore. I went ahead and took it back to the library for someone else to enjoy, but I don't think that there was a specific type of seaming that was called for in the pattern. So I was kind of on my own there. And the knit stitch, I didn't know how to not have a jog there in between the colors. So again, brand new to Tunisian crochet. I'm sure there are ways to do this differently. So maybe I'll still rip that out and try to make it less embarrassing, but I'm just going to own it right now. I'm not going to be ashamed to let all of the internet know that yes, I've done a really that I've really made a mess of this seam. Anyway, I'm glad that that's done. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more Tunisian crochet because it was an interesting experience. I'm not sure that I fell in love with it. Some people, when you try something new, you get in a groove and you love it. Maybe it was the project I tried. Maybe if I see another pattern that just makes my heart sing, or a pattern that calls to me, maybe I'll try it again. I still have a couple of those long Afghan hooks that I could use it on. We'll see. But I definitely don't feel intimidated by Tunisian crochet anymore. I have made a hat. I know I can if I care to. So yay for a finished object. I do have one other finished object, which is also a hat. I love going to Crystal over at Bag O' Day. I love going through her hat patterns, and she has so many different designs for hat. And this one is her fall through beanie. And this is it, which the texture of the stitches is just beautiful. I love the proportions on this. I love the stitches and how they're varied and they look complicated, but they're easy. It's easy to get into a rhythm with them. All right, for this one, I used Caron Simply Soft in an Ogo, and it was one that I got on clearance at Joann's, and the color of the Ogo was almond and off-white. So it was a beautiful brown color. Love the neutrals. Now, I don't know if you guys have had the same experience, but I found that, now I've worked with Caron Simply Soft in the past, but I found that with using it off of the Ogo, the texture just seemed a little different. I don't know if it was so compressed, being in that tight spiral, that the yarn took on a different feel, or perhaps the Ogo itself had been one that had originally come out and who knows how long it had been sitting on the shelves, just collecting dust in the craft store and being moved from one place to another. It wasn't the experience I was expecting using Caron Simply Soft. That didn't matter with the hat. The hat still turned out really beautifully. I will probably be making this hat pattern again, that this fall through beanie is really beautiful. I might do it a little differently at the bottom because I do like a little bit of a tighter brim, but overall, Crystal, this one is a winner, so love it. I have such a stock of beanies though. You can see back here, I'm probably gonna have to go through my hats sometime soon and decide what I'm gonna keep and what is gonna go in the donate pile. Let's move on to some works in progress. Now, before I really get into it, I'm going to take you back in time to see my progress on my neon Christmas sweater. Hello, people of the future. It's Mary of the past. I wanted to do a quick little blip here because I am working on my neon Christmas sweater and I'm about to be done with this one part, and I wanted to just highlight how ridiculous I've been, to be honest, on trying to not have extra ends to weave in. So my sweater is a raglan style, so the sleeves are in the bright colors and the body of the sweater is in white, and I'm gonna start working a Christmas tree in black on the front. So right now, because I don't want to weave in ends, I have pulled from the inside and from the outside, and each one of those is connected to a different sleeve. So I have one skein of yarn going in two different ways. And I'm doing the same thing with the white. Now this pattern has you connecting in the back and kind of doing a seam up the back. So I'm about to be done and be able to join the sleeves, but what I wanted to show what I've been doing. I have been pulling out the white and I have been carrying it across this way and then ducking it down and carrying it over here where it connects. So for this length, I will have two carries of yarn that I have to keep inside, and then I will slip stitch it here and chain up, and then I'll go back the other way. But thankfully, I'm almost at the point where I can be done carrying this yarn, and once the sleeves can attach, then I can just go back and forth and back and forth. But I just thought that was amusing. What has happened is the back kind of does have a little seam, but on the interior, I have a little bit of the zigzag where you can see where my carries have been. So the back is going to be nice and thick, but thankfully this is acrylic. It's not going to shrink up. It's not going to matter. Hopefully by now you're seeing a lot more progress on this, and so I won't be continually going back and forth on, at least for one of my skeins of yarn, pulling out at both ends. So I'm going to take you back to the present now. Welcome back to the present. So that's me. I'm going to try everything I can to avoid having extra ends to weave in. And I was doing some kind of juggling act with all those different yarn ends. So I'm at the point now where, as you can see, this thing is going to be so ridiculous and I love it. You can see now I've moved on to the sleeves separately than the main body. So right now I just have one white attached and I have black attached. I'm starting to do the Christmas tree here. But then I do have the retro stripes attached in two different places. And it's getting pretty thin. I'm gonna have to get some more of this because these sleeves are big. But this is meant to be, first of all, the pattern Mod Christmas sweater by Breann Mauldin is a sweater that's supposed to be a lot more fitted. So I actually sized up, and then instead of doing double crochets, I'm doing half doubles to make it a denser fabric. And so I was modifying how I was doing the increases here, and that's created a much wider sleeve. So they're gonna be super puffy, but it's gonna be fun because this is a sweatshirt style. This is what I'm going for. So all that means is I just have to get more yarn. I'm gonna go as far as I can with this, and then I'll switch and do probably more of the Christmas tree down here, and we'll see where funds are and where coupons are and get more of the retro stripe. But I'm actually surprisingly loving this retro stripe. I see why so many people love it. It's really fun. It's not something I normally would gravitate towards in terms of, you know, my walk in the woods aesthetic. It's definitely out there for me, but it's perfect for this project. And if I had some extra on hand, I'm sure I would put it to good use. This is my afternoon at Pemberley dress. I updated y'all a while ago when it was right at knee length, and I've decided I'm just gonna keep going. I went up a hook size and I'm gonna keep going down. I do have a bit more on this cake of yarn, and then I have a whole other cake as well. So I'm thinking I'll get a few more rounds in on this, and then I'll switch from an I hook to a J hook to really give it that kind of mermaid feel and just take it straight to the ground. I think with it being cotton, it can really pull as it is worn. So I don't want it to scrape the ground too much, but I want the idea going to a nice restaurant on a tropical island. My husband and I did both get our passports renewed, and so hopefully in the spring we'll get to go on a tropical vacation together. That's the plan anyway, and this dress will be ready for then. I only have two more things to show you. They're both hats, and they're both in progress. The first one is the Diamond Ridges hat or beanie, and this is my success so far. This one is challenging me, and it's challenging me because it calls for a lot of different post stitches, and you have to be really intentional. I don't know, I think it's me. I don't think it's the pattern. I think I'm just gonna have to redo a couple of rows and see if I can figure out where I am on this pattern. It's challenging for me, but I'm sure once I get the rhythm of it, it won't be hard at all. I think sometimes it's just when you're making your hat crown and then you start doing the repeats and you're still doing increases, it can get a little muddled up in there. The pattern calls for an H hook, which is what I am using. That is a 5.0 millimeter hook, and it calls for a DK or a sport weight yarn. So I'm using this mystery chartreuse yarn, and I have more of this. I think this will be more than enough. I'm gonna try to keep this going and make it all the way through. But if I get stressed out, if I feel like I have to rip out another row or two, I might just put this on hold and maybe try a similar pattern in a different weight yarn, or a different, like made from the bottom up or something, because I love the look of it, and I love top down hats, but it's not always worth the frustration in the learning. So work in progress right now. Maybe I'll frog it, maybe it'll keep going. The last work in progress I have, which is not at all frustrating, is a divine hat. And here it is in this deep royal purple. And this is Loops and Threads Impeccable, and the color is Amethyst. So this is my project that I started yesterday while I was in the car as we were driving to church, and I was working on it in church. It is a go-to pattern when I just want to make something that I know is going to turn out well and I don't have to think too much about it. So that is ongoing right now. I'm sure it will be finished soon, and I'm sure that this will be a donate as well. This is my first time working with Loops and Threads Impeccable, and it's not a bad experience. It's comparable to Red Heart Super Saver, and this is a vintage ball. I'm not sure when this one was made, but this is what the packaging looked like at the time. So that is all I have for now. Upcoming projects, Christmassy themed things. I want to keep working on the Christmas sweater. My children have requested mitts, so like fingerless gloves, or possibly mittens. So I'll be maybe working on those. They also want hedgehogs for Christmas, so maybe I'll work on some of those. I do want to keep chipping away at Christmas, and then hopefully by the time Christmas actually gets here, I will be done with it and I can just enjoy the season. Wow, that's a lot going on. My goodness. Thank you guys so much for listening this long. If you enjoy this type of yarny ramble, I would love for you to stick around, comment, let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know the bag lining fabrics. Is there a preference there? Whatever. I would love to connect with you guys. I am so enjoying this whole process of putting YouTube videos together, throwing them out there, doing different topics of things I'm interested in, but also just sharing what I'm making. It is really fun being part of this community. So thank you to everyone who has come along for this adventure in the interwebs, and I really am glad that you're here. I appreciate you. If I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I know it's been a longer one. I do hope I will see you again. And until then, bye.